It's the heavyweight bout we have been looking forward to all weekend in the Isuzu UTE A-League as the Australia Cup champions, the Newcastle Jets, host their rivals from the Big Smoke, Sydney FC. Good afternoon and welcome to Awabakal country in Newcastle. Round 3 continues in the A-League men's. Well, it's often said that older siblings can teach you plenty of lessons, the lessons of life, but there always arrives a time when the youngest wants to come of age. For years, the all-conquering Sydney FC have stood proudly, asserting their dominance, providing the blueprint, staring down at the Newcastle Jets with their record 5 championships, 4 premierships, their 2 Australia Cups, and you can add the OFC Champions League for good measure. But today, for the first time in recent memory, Newcastle have assembled an arsenal to stare straight into those sky blue eyes, face to face with the most successful club in A-League history. But when you get your shot, you must deliver, because as the Jets well know, these opportunities don't arrive often. Well, they have been free scoring the Newcastle Jets across the Australia Cup and the Isuzu UTE A-League. Sydney FC bounced back last week against the Mariners, who the Jets were defeated by in the opening round. It sets it up for an absolute cracker here in the Hunter. Well, the team news for Newcastle is that there's no changes to the starting side from the team who dazzled against Melbourne Victory in a 5-2 win. Max Burgess played just 172 minutes last season at Sydney. He's already got 146 after 2 matches this season. Alex Battolato has been the talk of the town after his hat-trick against Victory. The only change for the Jets is on the bench, defender Max Cooper, replaced by Academy product Alex Nunes. For Sydney FC, no changes to Ufi Tale's side. Striker Victor Campuzano scored his first goal with a sublime back heel, while winger Joe Lolly outlined this week how he's enjoying more freedom after the departure of Douglas Costa. The departure has also opened up more opportunities for Pat Wood, who scored his first A-League goal in almost a year last week against the Mariners. Kick-off soon. Mark Milligan comes up against the team he made his A-League men's debut for way back in November 2005. 42 matches across 3 seasons with Sydney. He'll be hoping his side can dominate against the Sky Blues as he did for Melbourne Victory against Sydney in the 2015 Grand Final. Man of the match on that occasion. Ufi Tale was actually one of Mark Milligan's teammates on his A-League debut back in 2005. He's in his 3rd season with Sydney. He knows silverware is the requirement this year. The Sky Blues' last A-League trophy more than 5 years ago in 2020. Their most recent trophy, that 2023 Australia Cup triumph before Steve Corica departed just weeks later. Shane Skinner in charge of his 12th A-League men's match. Kate Jakowicz, the VAR, Ben Abraham, the assistant. So we are just about set and ready to go. So ready to go here in Newcastle. The leading scorer in this competition. A hat-trick last week against Melbourne Victory. Can he do the business against fellow heavyweight Sydney FC? Victor Campuzano getting off the mark last week for Sydney. So Newcastle and Sydney FC hunting back-to-back A-League wins, and right from the outset, how about this for a statement? The Jets attacking right from the kickoff, and Daniel McBreen, it's probably no less than we expected from the Jets, and Sydney FC are returning fire here through Joe Lolly, who's going to deliver a low cross, which spills here for Yuli, and Delianov with a sharp save early on.
Well, I haven't even got to say welcome to the viewers, but if that's what we're up for today, we'll bring it on. The Jets showing their hand early. Sydney FC saying, well, anything you can do, we can do just as well.
Yeah, that gives us an indication as to what we are going to witness here over the next 90 minutes. The anticipation has been building, not just because these two sides are playing well, as Tisserand down in the box, but it's the style of football we know both are going to deliver. The Jets are playing attacking football. Uthi Talay, chatting to him this week, he was excited coming up against Newcastle because he knows they're going to play football. There will be chances to score, but Newcastle will create some of their own as well, as we saw last week. As this corner towards the near post, dealt with by Aquilina. And this is Battolato. So 4 goals in his first 2 games, trying to track down the record of Roy O'Donovan. This is in the A-League, 4 in his first 2 A-League matches for Newcastle. O'Donovan scored 7 in his first 5. And that started with a hat-trick against the Mariners. You'll remember on the opening round of the season. Grant and Lolly. And Toure leading the charge. Delianov was a little slow to get up and off his line, but he got there eventually, the Jets keeper.
For a brief moment, I thought he was just going to stay on his line, which would have given the advantage to Sydney FC, but he made the decision late. Just on last week's performance, Newcastle Jets firstly being the home team, they were scintillating, weren't they? Knocked that ball around, really opened up Melbourne victory. Talay saying he was very happy with the improvement he saw. 2-0 probably wasn't reflective of the way they played.
Yeah, it was a pretty controlled performance, wasn't it, from Sydney, the way they handled the Mariners. You felt like it was only a matter of time before they found that goal in the second half. And then Pat Wood sealed the deal late on for a 2-0 comfortable win at Leichhardt.
And I guess Tele looks at this Newcastle team knowing that they're going to come, be attacking, trying to go forward. Well, they had most of their best moments last week was in that transitional moment into attack, sitting deep, winning the ball and going at pace. Joe Lolly, Toure on the other side. Toure, it must be said, probably butchered a couple of opportunities that they could have broke, but was in the right moments, in the right spaces, and it'll give them some confidence that they can build on.
One man that will be excited about Newcastle presenting some opportunities is that man, Toure. Wants to get off the mark with Sydney FC. He did have those opportunities last week. Just need to get that first one. We know Virgos last night for victory. He was just desperate for it. He couldn't quite find the goal against Perth Glory. Campofano will be certainly relieved to get himself off the mark. The Real Madrid youth product. And Toure has plenty of pace. Rosas keeping toe with him. Cross all the way across Shaughnessy, but Shushnia dealt with it. Campofano. Lolly. And the Spaniard just lost his footing in the box. Kisper trying to win it back. Good industry from the Peruvian, and Toure testing out Delianov. He had to push it away because Campofano was very nearly there for the rebound. And Sydney applying the pressure. Now it's Lolly, crunched in there by Wilmering.
Well, it's a Sydney FC press. It's causing the Jets all kinds of problems. That's a great strike. Didn't get the best hand on it at first, Delianov, but reacted well. FC not sitting back, they're pouncing on any loose ball in that final. Jets back third, I should say.
Well, they've come out like the big boys of the competition we expect Sydney FC. And the corner is a dangerous one. Ryan Grant at the back post was arriving late. Wilmering did just enough. I mentioned it in the intro. Newcastle coming into this one, eyeballing Sydney FC. You feel like it's as even a contest between these two sides as we've seen in quite some time. But it's Sydney who have started the brighter. And it's Lolly towards the head of Grant at Tisserand. Oh, Delianov. Geez, pulled off some massive moments in the opening 6 minutes here.
Well, he's had to be on form right from the get-go here. Didn't get a hand to the other one, a solid one, but this one was fantastic. Tisserand, ball back across with a good header.
Now it's Lolly, and Delianov is taking no chances. He does apologise to his team. It will be a corner for Sydney.
Well, he's under fire early, isn't he? He had a couple of testers from long range. Now he's been called into action from inside the penalty area. Sydney are all over the Jets in the opening stanza.
Good shape on the corner. It's Grant's header. Tisserand. What a chance to open his A-League account. The Congolese international couldn't have asked for a better opportunity.
It's the same combination. Ryan Grant getting free at the back post, putting it back across the goal. But Tisserand again, and this time he's almost underneath the crossbar and can't get over it.
You've got to love this start from Sydney, because they know Newcastle, under Mark Milligan, have been starting matches with the high intensity, the press, and more often than not scoring an early goal. But today it's Sydney who are suffocating Newcastle.
Well, we did see in the first 10 minutes Melbourne Victory really test the Jets last week. They found it a little bit difficult to get through, but once they found their range, once the midfielders started to find those pockets, the game really changed. And that's when the Jets found their momentum. They need to settle. They need to just settle on the ball, find a little bit of space in midfield areas, just like this.
And Newcastle, their first foray since the opening seconds. Gibson turning, Gibson scoring! Remarkable! Sydney utterly dominant for the first 7 minutes, but who scores first? It's Newcastle, and Ben Gibson's got 2 in 2.
Well, we were just mentioning last week and how they found a bit of composure and the game changed. Well, it's the first time they've really gone down, apart from the kickoff. Harvey Norman replay will show Wilmering gets in a little bit of space in behind and just drives. And look at Gibson, it just drifts off the shoulder. Good turn, deflection, doesn't help the keeper at all. But you can see Wilmering, it's a simple ball in. And like all good strikers, he tries to get a turn in. And Devaney Smears isn't helped by the deflection at all. But from an absolute siege at one end, the Jets have fired the first marker at the other.
Well, you can hear the chants around this stadium for Newcastle. The crowd has built up nicely. It's one of the biggest crowds Newcastle have had for quite some time. The anticipation built all this week. You feel like there hasn't been this much buzz around the Jets since that 17-18 season under Ernie Merrick. And you'll remember there was a famous game against Sydney where actually Roy O'Donovan was sent off and Newcastle won it with 10 men. Andrew Naboot scored that remarkable goal from near halfway. That's the kind of feeling around McDonald Jones Stadium today, and what a start this is for the Jets.
Well, I'm sure Ufuk Talay will be absolutely seething with his defence. It was too easy, but hats off to Daniel Wilmering in the first to drive down the line and then go inside. And then Ben Gibson with the little touch around the corner, swivel of the hips. There's been plenty of talk about Lockie Rose being the 9 in this team. Well, he's being kept at bay at the moment. Ben Gibson has another goal to his tally.
Well, Bob Stanton put his neck on the line last year. Bring in Ben Gibson, unheralded striker, had a great season in the NPL New South Wales. And he impressed last year, and he's impressing Mark Milligan this year. Important to note as well, in 2 meetings last year, Newcastle led both of them 2-0. They lost the second 3-2. They drew the first 2-2. Sydney scored 2 late goals. So
I was having a little look at the history of this fixture here. Since 2010, the Jets have only won 5 of 19 against Sydney FC at home.
Well, it's utter sky blue domination, this rivalry. The Jets have won 11 of 58. Of 57 coming into this one. And here's Sydney's chance. Toure. Toure! The man who needed a goal. He's got one now. And gee, they opened up Newcastle. And Toure has his first goal in the A-League in sky blue.
Well, it was a thunderous finish from Toure. But it was a mistake from the Jets that handed him possession. The Norman replay just sees under pressure there, just tries to poke it across, and Toure's first. The run from Kispe around the outside allows him the space to go forward. It's Costa Grozos under pressure, but just have a look at the run from Kispe. That draws Shaughnessy away, and that's enough space for Al Hassan Toure to fire home the equaliser. Well, we thought there'd be goals in this contest, and it hasn't disappointed. Not bad moves at all either.
Daniel McBreen, has this got A-League Classic written all over it?
If it continues in this vein, Ben, it's going to be right up there.
2 goals in the first 12 minutes. This is what we're expecting, and so often you don't always get what you expect. But inside 12 minutes, we are so far.
We're just talking about the dominance of Sydney in the early minutes. 6 shots to 1. 4 shots on target to 1. The Jets have only had 1 shot, and it's gone in the back of the net. It's just the reply that Tele's men needed.
So Grant seeing the space in behind it. Joel King is able to exploit, and the delivery is low out by Aquilina. This is Burgess. Mark Milligan said this week he didn't have a point to prove against Sydney FC. He said that's football, but no doubt there will be something burning inside Max Burgess. He was frozen out last year under Ufi Tale at Sydney.
Well, if you look at the way that goal came about for Sydney FC, very similar to the second goal for Melbourne Victory last week. On that occasion, it was Lockie Bayliss, I think, that gave the ball away, trying to play out. And I spoke to Mark Milligan about that during the week as well. And he said, it's going to happen. A young team being asked to play out with confidence. They're going to miss some passes now and then, but they have to believe in the way they're playing that more often than not, it'll work in their favour. And it's going to be a rocky road at sometimes, but they've got to keep that belief. He said that belief wavered a little against the Mariners, but he saw it last week. It's now the test for them again under this Sydney FC press, is that will they stick to that, and can they stick to that?
Looked like a handball from Campofano. Milligan certainly thought so. And the Spaniard nudges it to the Peruvian in Kispe. Toure, overlap from King. Toure back on the right. And it's well wide. Didn't have his shooting boots on that occasion, as he did for the opening goal for Sydney. And Wilmering returns it to Burgess. Burtoncello, deflection. Could be an awkward one for Grant, but gee, that's killed beautifully. The Sydney captain. Caputhano. This will be a Sydney throw. So you can see the action areas there. Sydney rather dominant to start this one. Squeezing the Jets in. Lolly. Caputhano let it run.
It was nice, wasn't it? Toure just wasn't on the same page.
He's classy, isn't he?
Yeah, it's the perfect one. Step over and go. He's just expecting that Toure would be there to play the little pass in behind, but still getting that understanding.
Wilbury. Cello looking for the back heel. Yeah, Caputhano, a man who's scored 5 goals in 8 Europa League matches. That was back in 2019-20 when he was with Espanyol. A player who scores those kind of goals in that kind of competition. His quality, even though he didn't get the opportunity in La Liga he probably would have liked. Also played in the 2nd division in Spain. This is neat from the Jets. Cello just out-muscled. And now Lolly, space of plenty, but it's Rosas getting back. Key intervention from the Jets captain.
It was critical, wasn't it? He does that so well, Costa Rosas. When it breaks down, he drops into the back line to help his centre-backs. As the full-backs have pushed forward. There's a key intervention there.
Another hit pass around the corner from Aquilina. I was just thinking as Battolato played that pass to Burgess, the man of the hour last week, or the man of the opening 2 rounds for the Jets. Been a somewhat quiet start to this one.
It's been mostly Sydney FC, hasn't it? See, again, like last week, maybe just starting to inch their way forward on the field, just getting themselves a little higher each time they grab some possession.
Well, Alex Battolato scored his first senior goal in this city for Western Sydney Wanderers against Broadmeadow Magic about 4 years ago. And the goals have continued to flow here for him. So you can see that Sydney press, their possession won in the final third, underlines that. Toure. And King. The weight on the pass just slightly off from Joel King. Shushnia, poor giveaway from the centre-back, and Sydney through Lolly. It's well snuffed out by Shushnia. Pass looking for Dobson, the flick on. Is there a whistle? Not forthcoming from Shane Skinner. Kisbeck drives it through. Ryan Grant anticipated it beautifully, but couldn't hook it back. Men's match number 319 for the Sydney captain, all with the Sky Blues. Dobson. Aquilina. Dropping it back to Dobson. And a little bit of frustration. It was Max Burgess just quite not on the same page as Dobson was offering there. And is there a problem here for Toure? Well, this is a concern for Sydney. Their goal scorer has gone down. He just found his first goal for Sydney. Or is it just... I thought for a moment he was just going to tie up the shoes. What's this, Macra? Is this a change of boots? No, nothing. No else other than that?
This isn't an injury, so he needs to go off the field to do this.
Well, this is
ridiculous.
It's crazy. Yeah. Usually you see sides try to mask this. So you get the goalkeeper to go down and then the player changes their boots. Remember a couple of years ago when Rob Stanton was the coach, he actually said to Phil Kankar to sort of start a little bit of a brouhaha with Robert Mack, and then all of a sudden it ended in Robert Mack getting sent off. And I was trying to remember who had to change their boots. One of the Jets players it was, and Mack was sent off, and that was actually the last time the Jets won against Sydney, 3-1 here at McDonald Jones Stadium. So well, that's an interesting one. Toure leaves the field, so Sydney down to 10 momentarily. And he's got his new set of wheels on. And he's ready to go. What do you think? Issue with the studs, Macca, or?
Not sure if he just put the same boots back on. So maybe it was the inner sole, the orthotic. Something wrong with them. Maybe he had to change that out. But whatever it was, it gets classed as an injury.
Onto the field now. Sydney restored to the full complement. So Grant and Tisserand. Vitale this season really wanting to tighten up their defence. More experience back there. It's been a real focus. Gibson. Dobson trying to return it to the Jets goal scorer. It's remarkable, isn't it? 22 minutes in, the Jets' only chance was that goal for Gibson. Outside of that, Sydney really have had all the answers. A lot of those shots at goal came inside the opening 5 minutes for Sydney. And then Newcastle opened the scoring. Before Sydney return serve. Wilmering tried to place the pass. Gee, he was like a surgeon there. Dan Wilmering trying to find Gibson just out of reach.
I've been really impressed with Daniel Wilmering this season through the Australia Cup into the A-League as well. You could see he was just waiting for some movement, an option. It was almost a perfect pass, wrapping it around the defender. And Gibson saw how close that was for a tap in at the back post.
Gibson 6 goals in the A-League men's, 25 appearances. Scored 4 last season. Already has 2 now in his second season. Shushnia strong in the air. Well, whistle went. Some thought maybe advantage could have accrued there for the Jets, but they're coming back for the set piece.
Well, we saw Shushnia last week in a heated exchange in the course of the game with, of course, Virgos. I think there'd be the same kind of battle, different players, obviously, Capitano.
Do you feel like there's a bit more fire and brimstone about Virgos than Campuzano? He seems like a more calm character.
Different characters, different strikers.
Well, that's why we love it. Be boring if we're all the same.
Correct.
So the match has just settled for the moment after a frantic start. 2 goals inside the opening 12. And Shushnia looking for the long release towards Aquilina. He's got speed, but He won't track that down. Is it going to be a corner here? It is. So it's come off King. They were thinking about keeping it moving quickly, the Jets, but they decide instead Wilmering with the in-swinger. Shaughnessy at the back post, and Devonish Mears got himself in a real muddle there.
Well, he did. It wasn't a bad ball, but let's have a look at Max Burgess here. He almost looks like he ducks out of the way of it. You know, if he's just got caught up in the challenge with his defender. Sydney FC obviously done their research. Jets like to get the ball in quickly from all dead ball situations, especially on corners. They'll put it down, they'll play it, they'll get it going. Sydney FC on that occasion were right out there quickly, set up quick, don't allow them to play the ball in easily.
Shaughnessy, the head of Grant. Just Badalato got crunched in there by Grant. Frustration from the Sydney captain. Ufitale up and about. He's unimpressed. Wilmering around the corner. Burton-Cello. Good handling does Burton-Cello have, but he just could not quite hang it up for Gibson to nod in at the back post.
Well, again, Daniel Wilmering down this left-hand side has been instrumental in anything going forward for the Jets. Just a little overhit from Burton-Cello. It was a little 1-2 and give and go. Daniel Wilmering that set them going forward again.
Burton-Cello and Dobson have the opportunity to become the first Novocastrians to score their first A-League goal in Newcastle since Nick Cowburn scored against Sydney FC back in November 2018. Must give my thanks to Dave Keating, the Jets stats man. The bits and pieces he provided me, his expertise when it comes to Newcastle Jets. This is Toure in behind again. Aquilina getting himself goal side, but Toure, good hold-up play here. King arrives, drives it in. Shaughnessy cutting it off at the near post. And then King. Now, it's a sloppy one to concede, isn't it? Because Newcastle were just really finding it difficult to work their way out.
Yeah, let's just have a little chat about the ball from Joe Lolly, by the way. Absolutely wellied it from right on this near touchline, but it wasn't just a welly anywhere. It was hit with bend and purpose into the path of Toure. Just looks like he can do anything from anywhere, Joe Lolly, on his day. Real pleasure to watch.
Do you think he was a little quieter last season, Macca? You feel like we're getting the old Joe Lolly back?
Without a doubt. I think there was, when he spoke about it, for his game, Douglas Costa probably detracted from his game, but he's allowed to be that winger again. I do remember he was playing as a wing back in some of the games back end of the season. He was pretty open and honest in his talking to the press and said, I did not like that one bit. And I've had some chats with Wolfie about it. Told him I want to play on that wing area. That's my position. Well, he's back there again and he's showing what we've seen in the past.
It's always tough when you bring in a global superstar. We know Sydney struggled that year when Alessandro Del Piero came to the league in terms of results, not in terms of crowds. Crowds around the league were unbelievable with him on the travelling roadshow, but it does detract sometimes. They can't be fit into the system as efficiently as the coach would like and teammates. Dobson. Brozos. Burgess. Around the corner from Battalato. This will spill for Wilmering. Cuts it back towards Dobson. Burgess will get another bite at the cherry. The Jets recycling from one side to the other, and then Battalato let it run. And now Sydney through Campothano. And Devonish Mears just launches it anywhere, really. Just wanted to clear the danger for Sydney. So that probably their best little passage, Newcastle, since they scored. And here they come again. Dobson. Pass though not with enough angle for Aquilina.
He just needed to drive a little bit there. Dobson just to commit Joel King a little and allow Thomas Aquilina to get forward and into that space where he could make that run in behind. He just played it a little too early, which was just asking too much of Aquilina.
Burchell and Wilmering just balked and almost allowed Lolly to find a passageway between. So here we sit just after the half-hour mark. Sydney FC, Newcastle Jets looking for back-to-back wins. The Jets a 5-2 win over Victory last week. Sydney 2-0 against the Central Coast. Here is Lolly, dazzling Joe Lolly, could save Delianov, but Campothano is there to follow up. He's got 2 in 2, or maybe not. It's been ruled out for the moment for the Spaniard.
Well, it's another strike that has Delianov flapping a little. Didn't get the hand on it he would have liked. It's that man again as it comes out to the right-hand side. You know he's got one thing on his mind. Oh, I tell you what, he's just leaning, isn't he? It's close. And it's probably just enough. It's Joe Lolly again. Comes inside, gets the shot away. As I mentioned, Delianov, it's 2 or 3 times now where he's gone to palm away and it's just come down and bounced up again. And Dewey has made a couple of great saves early in the match as well.
Still the VAR running the rule over this. And the longer it goes on, the more Sydney FC will feel as though this could be awarded a goal. And based on their showing in the first half, it's no less than they deserve.
Well, that right leg as he steps back, the defender at the far side, is that Aquilina? I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure if that right foot is just stepping at the most inopportune moment for the Jets. This is closer than I think we first thought.
Remember, that camera's on an angle, so they've got to draw the line. It's a bit of an optical illusion. So Shane Skinner looks as though he is going to confirm that it's offside. By the barest of margins, this match stays level, and Gibson for a moment looked to be bearing down on goal. Campothano still on the deck, and the referee's going to come back over to check on the welfare of the Sydney striker.
Arm out from Susnia.
There's another delivery, that time from Ocon Engsler. Very nearly picked out Campothano and had the Jets scrambling. Burgess and Brozos. Just wanted to pass on our thoughts as well to the family of Alan Vest. who passed away last Thursday, aged 86, the inaugural coach of Newcastle KB United from 1978 to 1981. So all our thoughts with the family of Alan Vest. What a contribution he made to football in this region. Ryan Grant finding a free passage down the right. Grozos cutting it back. Yulee. I thought for a moment Reece Yulee had seen the goals of the season contender, or the contenders from last weekend, and he was going to pull one out there, but just didn't get the purchase on the drive. We had Romani and Schreiber, Battalato, Rose. Campbell-Thana with the back heel as well. That was pretty skillful. Tale still got it. Scored some special goals in his time as well. Toure uses every piece of the pitch. Hangs it up. Campuzano. And now here is Kisper. And it was the block initially from Grozos, which just took the pace off the strike. You feel like Newcastle are living dangerously at the moment.
They're really struggling with the Sydney press, aren't they?
Lolly now. Toure already got one. Delianov leaps on the spilled ball, but it doesn't matter how these two sides are performing. There's always some kind of challenge for Newcastle to get past when they take on Sydney FC. Campuzano and Delianov earning his money today. Wow, another save from the Jets custodian, and here is another corner.
Well, right there, that sums up the two teams at the moment. And there's another look at the offside earlier. It is very close. But Ryan Grant, as that ball came out, he was second best. This was cleared, saved. He was second best, but the energy and the effort he put to get there first has won this corner.
Lolly tries to skim it in, and it's Grant at the back post. Well, they are irrepressible at the moment, Sydney FC. The only concern for them is they need to take one of these chances.
That must be the third or fourth time now on a corner that Ryan Grant has won the first header. Saw him twice earlier put the ball back to Tisserand for opportunities. One there he couldn't quite guide on target. But whatever they're doing at the set pieces, he is finding himself free every time.
Burgess slipping it through, or attempting to. Look dangerous on those kind of moments, but in transition here, Sydney once again turning Newcastle around. Toure, step overs left and right. Aquilina had to make that challenge, had to get it spot on, and he did.
It was a good challenge, wasn't it? You're right. Afford mistakes there.
Well, Macca, you'd say at this point, Sydney deserve to be at least a goal, maybe more up.
I would say so. The weight of chances and the pressure they've put on the Jets, I just feel like there's one coming.
And the dip is perfect for Grant again. He's a beacon for these corners. Sydney are finding him every time.
Well, I think it was Daniel Wilmering who was on him at that corner there, and he just brushed him off too easily. It needs to be addressed because it's a constant danger on corners.
So now Newcastle, more of a saunter this from Aquilina. Adelato, Bertoncello. Just that final pass for Newcastle going awry. It's been a theme of this first half. Final 5 minutes of regulation in the first. Gibson scored the opener for the Jets. Toure with the reply for Sydney. And once again, Newcastle, they are not going to have an issue here from this Sydney raid down the left, because King has taken the ball over the sideline. But the width Sydney are using. Their wingers, their fullbacks have got chalk on their boots, and it is causing the Jets serious headaches. Stay in and kept in. Oh, Grant, awkward tumble. Fortunately, didn't land on the camera. That would have been a painful one for him. Well, every stat you look at for Sydney FC, it makes good reading, except the scoreboard. Versus Wilmering, turns his head. And it was Shaughnessy. They've got their work cut out for them today. The likes of Shaughnessy and Shushnia up against Campuzano. He's just getting into a groove. Vitale said did arrive late in the piece, so too did Kispet. And really trying to work up their loads. It's just looking better and better every week. Throw. Campuzano has caught Newcastle out, and he rifles it into the side netting.
Well, they went to sleep. The Jets, known they want to take quick set pieces, throw-ins, corners. Well, they all went to sleep there, and Campuzano just drifted in behind and should have done better.
Burgess has Wilmering in space down the left, and the early ball from Wilmering tracked down here by Aquilina. Adelato and Dobson. Retrieved by Grozos. Sydney getting numbers in front of the ball here for Newcastle. Aquilina. They've been industrious defensively, Sydney. They have stuck to their task, allowing Newcastle limited space, but they've threaded the needle down the right for Aquilina. Dobson. Grozos. Burgess. And this should be a free kick, and is. And Dobson's frustrated here. Is there a yellow card? You would think there has to be. It is a cynical foul from Toure. And wow, it's a final warning.
Yeah, he's very lucky there. They were very patient, the Jets. They moved the ball around, and then it doesn't get any more blatant than that, does it? He's in behind. Finally, they've worked their space. He's going to be driving towards the box. I don't understand how that isn't a yellow card.
Well, he's missed that one, hasn't he, the referee? There's no doubt about that. There is no doubt about that. Wilmering and Badalato. The options for Newcastle. The in-swing of Wilmering is the one they take, and Gibson got a flick on the edge of the 6-yard box, and it just had too much height.
Well, they haven't had too much down this end, the Jets, but Gibson almost manufactured something there. Just the glancing header, looking for the far top corner. I think Tele will be extremely happy with his team's first half performance. The only thing that he will be scratching his head at is why they aren't in front.
Well, there is still time, Macca. We know in the Isuzu UTE League, stoppage time usually brings goals. Toure on the angle. Kispert, time for Kispert was closed up by the Jets. Free kick Newcastle.
Well, he was in a great position, wasn't he? Toure done well again down that left-hand side. Gets his head up. And it's a nice firm pass, and it's just a little heavy. Touch from Kispert that allowed Buildup to just steal in. That was another dangerous moment.
Well, that's the moment, isn't it, that Buildup puts on his highlight reel. Because everyone's going to talk about the goals and the spectacular moments down the other end of the pitch, but that is the indication of the player he is.
We spoke about that after last week's performance. Yes, he got a hat-trick. Yes, he scored 2 absolute screamers, but it was his work rate back, helping to defend, keeping the ball in when it was going out for a throw-in. They're the things that can set you apart. Yes, he's got the quality, but he's also got that desire.
Just Shushnia v Campofano. I think it's on the simmer here, Macca.
Spoke too soon.
Ooh. Just getting a little spicy. We know the Virgos v Shushnia didn't really kick off till the second half. That's when they had their little set to. Maybe that's where it's building. He's always up for the battle, Alex Shushnia. Minute of stoppage time in this first half. Shushnia. Buildup looks forward. Grant steps in on Bertoncello and finds Campofano, who gets dispossessed. Bertoncello, can Newcastle turn something around here quickly? Defence into attack. Gibson. Straight at the goalkeeper.
Referee's assistance flag went up belatedly, but it's allowed to play on. Schmears has the ball, but just strayed a little early. Tele not impressed, even though they did get the decision.
He is thrown to the odd blow up with the 4th official. Passionate coach Ufi Tale stalking the sideline as he so often does. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. All right, well that is half-time. Oh, and look at this. Look at this. You don't see this often. The Sydney FC coach is striding out to Shane Skinner. Ben Gibson's adding a few words before the break. Shane Skinner is telling Ufi Tale to keep on walking. Well, well, well. How about this for a bit of drama right on the stroke of half-time? Well, he's continuing the conversation. And Daniel Wilmering's also had a few words to say to the referee. So both sets of players are frustrated with the officials at half-time. They have copped an ear-bashing as they head down the tunnel. Half-time at McDonald Jones Stadium. We're only halfway there. Newcastle Jets 1, Sydney FC 1. And we're going to take a quick break. The halftime show is coming up right after this.
Well, we saw last week he got into those wide positions and gave the ball away a little bit. Well, today he's taking a little bit more care of that. He's causing Aquilina all kinds of problems. When they win that ball, if they don't go to Lolly on the right, they go out to him on the left. And he's very direct. He likes to get straight at his defender. He's got plenty of pace. He's powerful as well. And I heard Roy say there that at times he makes wrong decisions. I probably agree with that sometimes he'll have an overlapping run or someone who goes in behind him and he'll go himself. But on the time he had an overlapping run when Capithano went around him, Chris Bay went around him, he thundered into the back of the net. He's a man who's causing problems for them. He's got the moves as well on the dance floor. He'll be causing more problems, and I'm sure Mark Milligan's in there now saying we need to contain him.
Welcome back to Newcastle. This is round 3 of the Isuzu UTE League. Newcastle Jets hosting Sydney FC. Two sides coming off victories last week. Newcastle, the Australia Cup champion. Sydney, the most successful club in the history of the A-League. And that's across men's and women's. And they'll be disappointed that they weren't able to push ahead in that first half. It sits on a knife edge, this match. 1-1 at halftime. Gibson and Toure, the goal scorers, Daniel McBreen. This second half, you feel like it is going to offer a lot if the first 45 is anything to go by.
We would expect so, especially as tired legs start to sink in. Sydney FC pressing with real intent. Newcastle Jets have really struggled to play through that press as well. And I'm sure that Mark Milligan has spoken to his players, trying to get a little bit of composure. They've got to get a little better movement off the ball to get into positions where they can receive to go forward. But that press for Sydney FC, I'm going to hand it to Ufuk Talay, they have been on point for the first 45.
Well, on a humid afternoon in the Hunter, though, can they keep the press going late on into this match? That will be the big question of Ufuk Talay's side. Lots of questions on half-time being asked of the officials. As Lolly driving it in towards the box. If you missed that, it was like bees to the honey pot. Players and coaches going over and expressing their frustration with the officials. Ben Gibson had a chat. Ufuk Talay strided out to the middle. And then Dan Wilmering added a little bit for good measure as they were heading off down the tunnel. And it was along the lines of, so we can just kick them, can we? With a few expletives in there. So maybe a bit frustrated with the lack of a whistle in the first half.
Well, there were a few moments I thought the referee allowed play to continue. There was nothing really untoward, was there, in the first 45? There was nothing malicious from either side. The one we saw, we both agreed on, that was probably the yellow card, was just Toure pulling the shirt. Dobson holding him back.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. I felt like outside of that, wasn't too much controversy. But it's a high-stakes encounter. Both sides desperate. Early days of the season. Second place on the table behind Auckland FC on the line. We know it's early, but second place this stage of the season, you lock yourself in there, build the foundation.
Well, it breeds confidence, doesn't it? Both teams expecting big things this year, big improvements. You can set that expectation early, breed that confidence, it takes them a long way.
Lolly powering down the right. Wilmering has to keep a watchful eye. Lolly's ball is low. It was dealt with by Delianov. It wasn't convincing. Newcastle almost gifting it back to Sydney.
Joe Lolly just seemed to just waltz in behind the back line there, didn't he? Put the ball across the 6-yard.
Well, Wilmering is having a really tough afternoon up against Joe Lolly. To be fair, all of the Sydney front line been excellent today. Kisper signed as that replacement for Costa. He's been superb, finding space. The Peruvian, this is Toure. Yuli, now King. Early doors, but this new look Sydney FC side seems to be working in unison. And Joe Lolly again. Lolly v Wilmering once again onto the left. Lolly draws a save out of Delianov. Campuzano is dispossessed. This will probably be a whistle, and is right in front of the Sydney FC fans.
Well, he feels that he was pulled down by Sushnia. Referee and their assistant don't agree.
Is it giving a Bath territory, Lolly v Wilmering, Macca? Because it's dominant. It's as dominant as we've seen, this duel between these two.
Yeah. The thing is, you know that's exactly what he wants to do. We know he can go outside as well, but his favourite move is to come in on that deadly left foot. So you also need your midfielders to help.
So Kisper gives away the free kick. So are you saying don't put all the blame on Wilmering?
Yeah.
There needs to be more assistance he is given.
Without a doubt. Either one of the central midfields needs to drop into and not allow him to come in, or Xavier Berticello, if he's deep enough, needs to do that cover, because you can't overcommit too far. If you try to block him as a defender, he'll just go outside you easy. So you need help. He's a quality player.
Shaughnessy so nearly nutmegged. Dobson, good strength up against Grant, who's a more solid body, the centre-back, but then Badalato outworked there by Ocon Engsler. 3-on-2 for Sydney. Toure, he's got one, he's got two! Toure for Sydney FC, and they're in front now, the Sky Blues.
Well, he's caused them problems all afternoon, Al Hassan Toure. And finally, Ufuk Talay can nod the head in appreciation. They gave the ball away again, the Jets in midfield, on the Harvey Norman replay, and then they broke. And look at the numbers. Grozos isn't quick enough to get there to help. He has time to take a touch, and it's a quality finish. Pepithano does well. He drives, brings the defender in, and that allows the space. And it's a quality finish into the bottom corner that Delianov can do nothing about. And you can only say it's only what Sydney FC have deserved on their performance today.
Well, he's shown his finishing ability today, Al Hassan Toure. First goals for Sydney FC in the A-League men's. And after he spurned a number of chances last week against the Mariners, he has been clinical today. Mark Milligan is emptying his bench. He is going to make some changes. Not happy with how things are progressing, because Sydney FC, this is the least they deserve, a one-goal lead. It probably deserves to be more. Gibson, Dobson, Berticello, and draws the save out of Devonish Mears, but that's the issue for Sydney. Newcastle in the final third have just lacked that final pass. They get that right, and they can well be back in the game. It was offside, the eventual call.
I'm not too sure who was offside. Was it Gibson as he came back for the initial first pass?
It definitely wasn't Berticello. Zulfi Talay, plenty of instructions to his side. Mark Milligan, quite calm and composed, is about to make these changes. Bertolicio, Fryer and Bayliss, the three-pronged changes for Mark Milligan.
Well, that was just another reminder, though, for Sydney FC. They did it in the first half, the Jets. Just after conceding, they almost did it again.
So slip through for Campuzano. Toure raises the hand. And Shushnia, well, he did enough there. There's frustration at the back for the Jets now. Here are the changes. Bertolicio, Fryer, Bayliss. So Toure never scored more than 3 in an A-League men's season. Never scored a hat-trick. And he's certainly a chance here this afternoon as Alex Grant heads over. Changes for Newcastle. Fryer, the hero of the Australia Cup triumph, that go-ahead goal after returning after a season out with that dreaded ACL injury. Joel Bertolicio, who was signed from Apia Leichhardt after playing in the A-League previously with MacArthur. Bayliss. His third season at Newcastle. Made the move from the Mariners to the Jets after they didn't renew his contract, and he's been a key cog in the midfield last season, or the last 2 seasons under Rob Stanton. More off the bench to start this A-League season. Just that start in the opening round. He didn't come off the bench last week. Regular in the Australia Cup for the Jets. So how can those three affect the momentum? Toure brought it down. Toure stopped by Shushnia. And the flag comes up for offside. I think the whole stadium held its breath there.
Far off, is it? There, the way the striker makes that run across the line to not run forward.
Well, don't forget, next Saturday, the Melbourne derby. The countdown is on. Melbourne victory, getting that win last night in the West just to relieve a bit of pressure. Melbourne City a draw against Brisbane Roar. It's the grand final rematch. In City next Saturday night. Do not miss it. Gibson. Oh, that is an awkward one for Devonish Mears. It came off a sky blue boot, and he was taking no chances. Fries. Delivery. It leapt off the knee of Grant, and it got big on him, straight into the head. Newcastle are just making things happen all of a sudden. Is Bayliss, and not quite the involvement he was after coming off the bench.
Just at a difficult height, wasn't it? Didn't know whether to get the knee up, stoop the head, and in the end got both. Saw the funny side of it.
So Arbel Wallity, in the meantime, is being readied by Sydney. Alex Wilkinson going to the fourth official, Declan Woods. So Sydney having to change a little bit of momentum of their own. A bit more youthful exuberance out there in the form of Wallity. Shaughnessy, the captain for Newcastle, with Grozos benched just before the hour mark. And gifted back to Sydney once again. And look at them push forward. Options left and right for Lolly. Toure for a hat-trick. His first hat-trick in the A-League. It's all too easy for Sydney FC. Al Hassan Toure has had a day out for Sydney FC.
Well, it's almost a carbon copy of the previous, and I can tell you, he was just about to be subbed. His number has now gone up. He got the hat-trick before the board went up. What a performance. And we see again, ball given away on the Harvey Norman replay. Joe Lolly reads it well, and he goes at almost a carbon copy. Draws in the defenders, and it's through the legs, and it's 3 goals to the good. It's quality play from Joe Lolly, striding forward, getting the defenders to commit centrally, rolls it wide, and it's time for celebration. A hat-trick for Al Hassan Toure. And then he says, that's me, I'm done. You guys can do the rest.
Well, Newcastle defensively today have been open for business, and business that young man has done. Career goals in the A-League now, 3 on one afternoon. 3 now in 3 matches in the A-League with Sydney FC. And there's more where that came from, because Arbel Wallity, he's an entertainer. He's come out there for Al Hassan Toure. Newcastle, though, have spied some space. Wilmering, and there's no one there on the penalty spot. So Sydney can protect a little bit more now. is a dangerous lead, 2 goals, but they will feel they well and truly deserve this for all their industry to this point, especially in the final third, but defensively as well. Adelato, just not enough crispness on the pass.
Well, if you look across the 3 goals as well, it's Newcastle Jets trying to play through, trying to be brave, but they've given the ball away and they've been punished. We said earlier that there might be days like this for the Jets where it doesn't go their way. It went their way in emphatic fashion last week against Victory. Well, today they're seeing what happens when it doesn't work well, when the opposition is pressing well, when their movement probably isn't as good as it needs to be. And they've paid the price. And the chief executioner is Alassane Toure.
Look at that, shots at goal second half. The domination continues for Sydney FC. And I'm just thinking, Macca, Sydney FC under Ufi Talay, as good a performance for some time. I remember there was a game against the Mariners maybe a couple of seasons ago where I just remember them suffocating them out of the match. And you felt like that press was going to be a constant theme in them rising up the ladder and really dominating, but it hasn't been the case, and they've refined things this year. And they're staring at back-to-back wins.
Well, that 3rd goal, you can just see what it's done to the Sydney FC players. You've seen Joe Lolly try to play a 45-metre pass with the outside of the foot. We're seeing Joel King trying to slide the ball behind him into back heels. It's just given them that breathing space to play with some more confidence now.
And they've taken the air out of the stadium. As big a crowd as Newcastle has seen for some time. Have they got something left in this final half hour, the Jets? Or is the big brother from down south going to come up and pinch all 3 points once again? For the 15th time at McDonald Jones Stadium in the A-League. In 30 meetings, they've won half of their matches against Newcastle at this venue. The Jets just 7. So 2 changes left for Newcastle. Rose, Nunes, Bracco, the options for Milligan in terms of outfield options. Adelato, hasn't been his afternoon thus far. That's neat from Dobson. Now it's Wilmering. With space and time, drives it back. It's a poor pass. It put Bayless under serious pressure, and now Sydney. Well, they could have broken quickly, but Kisper couldn't find Campuzano. Burgess. Jimmy's left and right. Drops it off for Bayless. Fryer. Adelato. And Burgess. Bertolicia. It's the Cove that's providing the soundtrack at the moment. And that tells you where things are situated in this clash. Burgess, and that is comfortable for Devonish Mears. Kisper, and now Gibson. Oh, that is well in by Alex Grant. That's excellent defending. And that's why Ufi Talay purchased him and Marcel Tisserand, bring that experience to the back line. clean sheet last week against the Mariners. And isn't it amazing, Macca, how things can shift so quickly? Adelaide defeating Sydney FC on the opening night. Back-to-back losses. Sydney, a lot of pressure after that defeat. They could be about to achieve back-to-back wins.
Well, the way they've played tonight, or this afternoon, I'll let this play out.
Lolly. So nearly once again for Sydney. A fourth goal would very much put Newcastle to bed. And Burgess, it's a tired pass.
Well, I was about to say, the way that they've played this afternoon, when you look at the back of their improvement last week, and we say 2-0 probably wasn't reflective of the dominance they had in that game. They've totally dominated the Jets tonight. 3-1 with almost half an hour to go when you add in the extra minutes. Is it safe to say yet Sydney's back?
Yeah, I think we need more. There needs to be a little bit more evidence put on the table. I don't think 2 matches can make a season, of course, but there's promising signs, isn't there? MacArthur next week for Sydney. This man made the move from the Bulls to the Jets. Now, Shaughnessy, I believe there's a bit of blood here. So he's going to be forced off, the stand-in captain. Looks frustrated to be forced to do this. So Justin Doherty, the Jets physio, out there with the doctor. And he's going to have to go off, so Newcastle down a centre-back. I would love to hear that conversation. We just see that excellent defensive work by Alex Trent. Ufi Tale just having a chat to Shaughnessy. I think he might have said, oh, is there a bit more blood there? Oh, he's not happy again. Tale remonstrating with the 4th official. I don't know whether he was unhappy there about the speed at which Shaughnessy was allowed back onto the field. But anyway, play goes on. And Ryan Grant, well, that's a cynical one. And this time, there is a yellow card.
Too quick there. It's one of the rare moments where he's been able to get the upper hand today.
Fryer, D'Alicia, Bayless, Dobson, away from Yulee, trying to slip it for Fryer. Chance spilled here for Battolato, and he's saying it took a touch. There's a corner for Newcastle. They can create something so efficiently, the Jets. They're not out of this by any stretch. You can see the deflection there. Socks thrown in front of the ball. Looked like a double deflection on the way through. So can Newcastle mount a case? Up they rise. Shaughnessy. Well, what a chance that was. Well, it just went in slow motion, didn't it, off his boot. See, here he comes around the back. Players have really eyes for him rather than the ball. He just couldn't quite direct it. It's a late thrust of the leg trying to put a goal in. They need something quick, the Jets. You can feel it's just starting to get to that point in the game where they're starting to feel a little bit desperate. How are they going to unlock this Sydney FC? They need a spark. Lockie Rose is out there for Gibson. Scored off the bench against the Mariners when Newcastle needed a goal in round 1. Is he the man? We know if his speed really can test out Tisserand and Grant. He's certainly got an advantage on them in that department. And he brings so much energy and industry. Shaughnessy. Kisper closed down the pass. And Shush now able to keep it from crossing the sideline. So 20 minutes to go. Sydney FC looking good here. 4 back-to-back wins over Newcastle. Well won by Yulee, but then given away by Kisper. He's given away a little bit of ball of late. And Newcastle in the bright sunshine of the afternoon. Wilmering out there on the left. Dobson sends Badalado chasing it towards the corner. Bayliss has found a pocket of space. This is better from Newcastle, and that had to be finished. What a chance that was for Badalato, who scored bombs in the opening 2 rounds. He couldn't finish when they needed him to there.
Well, it was wonderfully worked, wasn't it, from the Jets down that left-hand side. 1 and 2 touch play, movement off the ball, and Badalato found himself in acres of space on the edge of the box and really should have done better.
So, a change for Sydney. Is it Lolly the man? It is going to be Joe Lolly. And Pat Wood, who broke the goal drought last week, came off the bench, did his job, scored a goal for Sydney to secure the 3 points against the Mariners. He is coming on now for Joe Lolly, who applauds the travelling support from Sydney. He's had a game this afternoon.
Well, one of the best on the field for me as well. Again, he's on, he's really on. Just wondering if there's a little niggle or something that forced him to come off. Just having a chat with Tale now and the coaching staff.
He's doing the business in the heart of midfield alongside Reece Yulee this afternoon, forming a really strong combination. Now Lockie Rose putting Devonish Mears under some pressure. Good sweeping from the Sydney FC custodian. And then Wood earning it back for Sydney. Gifting a throw here for Bertolicia. Fry, the Sydney FC youth product. And Dobson through the legs, and it just slowed the momentum of the ball though. And Wallity going the other way. He is an entertainment machine. He's going in a foot race here with Bayliss, who kept toe with him. Kisper. And Grant, space for the Sydney captain. This should seal it. Pat Wood for the 2nd week in a row. He comes off the bench and scores for Sydney FC.
Well, knock on wood, he's done it again. Came off the bench last week. Johnny on the spot there. It was great play down the right from Sydney FC, and it's the final nail in the coffin, you would think. They have been dominant today. On the Harvey Norman replay, they released Wallity down that right-hand side. And at this moment, it's a foot race between Bayliss and himself. Bayliss does very well in the first. But then, as we see it unfold, it's just too easy. A little 1 and 2 give and go in behind. Great run from Kekithano to the front post. Delianov gets there, but as all good strikers should, Pat Wood is loitering, and he has the simplest of finishes. And it has been a truly dominant display from Sydney FC. There was plenty of pressure on Ufuk Talay going into this season. That was only intensified after round one. Well, are they answering the critics now?
Well, they have torn Newcastle to pieces defensively. And that is going to be the big question coming out of this one for Mark Milligan, is how can he try to reduce the amount of opportunities that the Jets are gifting opponents, because last week Melbourne victory 2 goals, Mariners 3 goals in round 1, Sydney 4 goals against the Jets in round 3. Bracco on for Dobson. Well, they have been given a reality check this afternoon, Newcastle. Alicio, there's Fryer, Bracco, sends it the way of Wilmering. Wilmering hanging it up, Fryer there at the back post, keeps it in, or does he? No, he has crossed the byline. So a crucial 14 minutes coming up here. Sydney to try and drive the knife into the Jets fans. And for Newcastle, well, this is about pride. They cannot let this get 5-6-1.
Well, exactly. For the team as a whole, but also the attacking players, can you go and get one back? Still 15 minutes to go. Gives a little bit of hope, I guess. There's plenty of time. We've seen crazier things happen in the A-League.
Well, we have the Western Sydney derby coming up right after this one. Wanderers and MacArthur. MacArthur getting their first win of the season. Wanderers under a bit of pressure. It's been a stodgy start to the new season. And Stadic's men turn things around. Bracco. Wilmering. He's had a lot of space down the left in this second half. Lato is filled. So free kick for Newcastle. He goes about his business. I know he's given away a free kick there, Mac, but Ocon Engsler, screening work has been excellent today.
Yeah. Reece Lilly in the midfield really just clogged that area, not allowed the Jets players to get through. And it's a position too that sometimes you don't mention as much, because you see the flamboyance of the Lolly. You get 3 goals from Toure. You know, those players get all the highlights, the goalkeepers, but those sixers, those guys in central midfield who are just the stable rock in the middle that don't allow the opposition to do what they do. Well, they've done it to perfection today.
Both part of that young Socceroos side at the World Cup, the Under-20 World Cup. Battalato, of course, part of that side. Right now he's staring at the football, looking to pull one back for the Jets. He produced something special. It will be Burgess instead to take. And, well, the less said about that for Max Burgess, the better.
Not what he wanted to pull out against his old team.
Newcastle next week facing a trip north to face Brisbane Roar. We know what Brisbane Roar are going to bring. Clash of styles, you could say. Another intriguing match in a season which is shaping up beautifully in the Isuzu UTE League. Bracco. Turn for Battalato. Campazano A lot of work there to put pressure on him. Wilmerin's ball, and it will be a corner for Newcastle. The issue for them is that the set pieces have not been nearly as dangerous as Sydney's in the first half, where with Ryan Grant just causing chaos. Off the head of Shush now, and he got up well, the centre back, just also brushed off the head.
Well, he's in a battle, isn't he? He's just trying to drift around the back, hoping for something to fall generously, but to be.
Sydney are going to make another change. It looks as though it's another one of those young Socceroos World Cup members in Quintal about to make his appearance. Rose getting there first. Devin Ishmael skirting the edge of his penalty area. Now it's Bracco. He's trying to find Bertolicio in space, the opposite end of the box, but Alex Grant, they've been mighty at the back. Grant and Tisserand. Just wondered in round one, didn't you, Macca, when Tisserand got absolutely beaten all ends up for pace by Allagic against Adelaide. You just wondered how he was going to perform in this league. Well, hasn't he responded well?
Well, he has. He was sensational last week, real commanding in that back line. We've seen plenty of the same again tonight.
Malato attempting the turn, but it's just not falling his way tonight. Just driving it across towards Rose. Devonish Mears came out. Well, how the goalkeeper has come off worse for wear there, I am absolutely baffled, Mac. I thought it was going to be Rose who was going to be cleaned up, but in the end it was the keeper on the deck.
It's brave here, Devonish Mears. You can see Lockie Rose is coming to throw his body in, and anything that comes, he just gets out, gets his arms out to the ball, and doesn't really have the arms to protect himself, but just what was needed.
Thiago Quintal about to come into the game for Victor Campuzano. And while he didn't score a goal, he had one ruled out for offside. He was excellent. Such a hard worker for Ufi Talay. You feel like he has got this side that he wanted. The side that really fits his mould. The players in the right positions. Now they just need to keep the momentum rolling, Sydney. Shaughnessy. Fryer left it behind. Ocon Exler just scurries up. He's like a Hoover, Macca. It's like one of those Dyson vacuum cleaners.
Sorry, Benny, I was just watching Oscar Fryer. He went down grabbing the knee. You
gave me absolutely nothing there.
Just the way he went down, I just didn't think it looked good. And when you see Sydney FC players immediately calling, just the way that knee buckled, it doesn't look good.
Well, Justin Doherty is one of the best physios in the business, and he is doing the test on that knee. And your heart bleeds for Oscar Fryer, because we know what he's been through. Oh, this is terrible, and he's going to have to be helped from the field. He missed the entire 23-24 season with an ACL injury. I should say 24-25, came back, played in the Australia Cup, scored the goal which put Newcastle in front, and oh yeah.
That was why I didn't respond, Benny, because I was just watching that knee there just buckle underneath. And let's hope that that's not as bad as it may be.
Well, they're usually the worst ones, aren't they, Mac? Where there's no one around, your foot lands awkwardly. And Newcastle with the real problem because they've got no substitutions left, so a dirty day becomes even darker for them. So they're going to have to play the remainder of this match a man down. So Bayless and Bracco. This is Quintal. And Bracco, he had to overcome Ocon Engsler. So there is the Paramount Plus Player Index. No surprises there. The man who scored his first A-League hat-trick, 53.8. What's the highest score you can get on the P Plus Player Index? That's got to be close.
Not out of 100. Someone got 80.
Well, Battlelata
got 80.
83. That's pretty good. 83. Have to do something pretty special. Getting further above that, Toure miles ahead of anyone else this afternoon. Battlelate's 80 odd last week, the highest ever. He's standing over this free kick. Grant in there, Sydney captain. Bayless, Shushnia. Hung up towards Rose, who got up but couldn't get it down critically for Newcastle.
That's one thing you'll get from Lockie Rose. He won't die wondering. He'll give you everything. He'll put himself in positions, try for everything.
Even though he sides up 4-1, he's not taking a moment's rest.
And he saw that the ball was kicked directly into his own player, but still just wants to ruffle the feathers.
Don't change Uffy. Shaughnessy and Shush now. So some thinking to do for the Newcastle Brains Trust this week. Again, Sydney happy to give him a bit of space. Bayless, Wilmering, touchback for Burgess. Burgess against his old side, deflection, and wide it goes. Corner will be forthcoming for Newcastle, but it's just been one of those days for the Jets.
Well, they've had some good passages of play, haven't they? Stuff we saw last week, we've seen bits and pieces this week, but that end product just hasn't been there.
In the corner, Shaughnessy again, getting his head on it. So what do you think Mark Milligan's going to pinpoint this week, Macca?
Well, the fact that the first three goals against came from giving the ball away in midfield and the quick transitional play, I think that's going to be a real feature this week in training, working on that. One, not to give that ball away. How do they play through? And two, when it is given away, the recovery or the positioning to recover.
Well, they're dancing in a different league, you feel, this season, Newcastle, after the Australia Cup triumph. More expected of them. Coming in here, they were expected to really challenge it. Many felt this was a massive chance for them to win against Sydney FC. But Sydney have certainly set their stall this season. They've set the expectations high from this point. Ahead of the clash with Macarthur next week. Macarthur taking on Western Sydney. And that Sydney derby coming up in round 6 against Wanderers. Ripping it around the front of Kisper to find Bertolizio. Burgess. Important to note as well, Newcastle without a couple of key men in Mizunuma with the hamstring. Eli Adams also. Clayton Taylor. 3 crucial players for them unavailable. Battalato. And as the ball pinched off his toes. They certainly will add more to Newcastle's attacking third. Eli Adams has had a few niggles through the pre-season. Mizunuma still a little bit away. Clayton Taylor is back in full training. So too is Noah James, backup goalkeeper, who's had a knee issue he's been dealing with. Maybe he's a chance as well to challenge Delianov, who's, yes, Newcastle have been defensively exposed, but they have conceded the 9 goals across the opening 3 matches of the season.
Well, certainly a lot for Mark Milligan to ponder this week. For Tale, I know he drives his team and expects the higher standards, but I'm sure he'll be saying more of the same, please.
So 4 unanswered goals after Newcastle took the lead against the run of play. In the opening minutes of this one. Bracco slipping it through Rose. Can he grab a goal here? Devonish Mears sweeping expertly. Rose could be back on the end of it. And it was Devonish Mears again. Had a good day, the Sydney goalkeeper. So Battalato. Rose anticipating in the middle. Battalato blocked off. Sydney have just got so many numbers in front of the ball today. So even when Newcastle have found space, difficult to get their shots on goal. Jets having to find a way around that. So Sydney have slayed the Jets. The heavyweights stamp their authority on this competition. Back-to-back wins for the Sky Blues. It was strong last week against the Mariners. This was comprehensive. They dismantled the Australia Cup champions. And Mark Milligan walks across to his old teammate. He has a little bit of thinking to do this week ahead of the Jets' trip to take on Brisbane Roar. Pat Wood, a goal scorer in back-to-back matches. Al Hassan Toure, a first career hat-trick in the A-League men. The Jets left to lick their wounds. And there will be plenty after this one. Full-time at McDonald Jones Stadium. Newcastle Jets 1, Sydney FC 4. And let's have a look at the Harvey Norman highlights of this one. And it was Newcastle who opened the scoring. Ben Gibson against the run of play, putting Newcastle in front.
Well, it was definitely against the run of play, and it was their first shot